Hi guys, Lindsay here with Storybook Family Farm. So one thing that they tell you and that you can read about all the time whenever you're first starting a homestead is telling you all about start slow, move things slowly, and just go forward slowly. Well, that's always a nice thing in theory, but for us, there was not that availability to just sort of piddle our way through it and just fiddle fart around to just slowly develop our homestead, which has made it so that way there's some complications going on. Like, for one, we didn't know that when we bought this abandoned property that the septic would need replaced. For two, we had no idea that where they wanted to put the septic was actually where we have this shed that we put up to store all of our firewood and also all of our hay for the year. So what we've been working on, which this wasn't actually an ideal place for us to store the firewood. It was just an ideal place for us to put a shed that was kind of close to the property line, kind of out of the way. The nice thing with doing a canvas tarp tent shed thingy was that they are movable, so it's not a permanent structure. We can move it if we decide to or if we need to, which chances are we're probably going to have to. Where they actually decided to put the septic, and they've talked about putting it, which it's not set in stone yet. We're still waiting on the county, waiting on the grant, waiting on further information, is actually basically just going from where I'm at now towards the house there, which, as you can see, where we store the firewood at is actually pretty far away from our house, way over yonder, which during the wintertime, gotta walk away, the geese seeing me, during the wintertime actually was a really big pain in the butt to try to take firewood from this shed here all the way over to the house. There also is some hills to get up to the front of the house, and then there's also a gazillion steps to get up in there. So for us to bring the firewood from back here to the house, it was very cumbersome, very exhausting, especially when there was snow on the ground. So in attempt to make it so we can store more hay and to make it so it's a bit easier on us for the wintertime and for the mysterious septic problem as to when the county's going to replace that, because we were, for those of you that are new to the channel, we actually were eligible for a grant to get it so that way the septic is being replaced for free. So we don't have to pay for it, we don't have to worry about it, but we are at the mercy of the county as to when it's getting done, where they want to put it. So it kind of puts us in a bit of a bind, because when you only have 2 acres of land, it becomes kind of chaotic to figure out where to rearrange things, where to move things, and the trajectory of where they want to put it. It actually means that we'll have to move the garden, we'll have to move that camper that you guys seen earlier, sheds, move the duck and geese area, just a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm hoping I can convince them to not put it there, but you know, I'm only one person. But so anyways, so I started moving all of the firewood this week, which is why I haven't filmed, because it's been very backbreaking, labor-intensive work to move all of the firewood into the lawnmower cart to then take it way over to the other side of the property, which is only about 25-30 feet from the house. But, you know, it's past the house and, you know, over the hill and through the woods to the firewood storage place we go. So I've been working on doing that. Today we worked on it some more, and then we also, the last 2 days, have been working on getting hay stored up for wintertime. So behind me here, I think Tracy said that it was like 50-something bales that's behind me here, which, as it stands right now, with having the 10 Nigerian dwarf goats and not very much pasture space, will you please wait till I'm done filming to talk? These geese, I tell ya, they always got stuff to say. But so with how it is now, with having the 10 Nigerian dwarf goats on our pasture area, which is very minimal, we're going through roughly a bale of hay a day, which is very expensive. It is not ideal. Our setup is not ideal at all. That's why I don't show it very often, because I don't want people to copy us, because it's kind of a mess. Kind of not. The ducks are chasing each other. But so it's kind of one of those things where you're like, ooh, I don't want people to see the realities, but you know, it's real life, so I mean, what am I going to do? I can't just suddenly poof us onto 5 acres or something more, but it is what it is. So I do have quite a bit more firewood here that I need to move, but I've moved about a cord or so of firewood into the clubhouse area, which I'm going to actually bring you guys over there now so you guys can see just how far of a walk, of a transition it is to take all the firewood from way over here to then moving it to way over there, which, you know, it would be a lot harder because last year we did not have a lawnmower cart. We just had wheelbarrows and wagons. So to walk it all the way over here to get to the house was actually a really big deal, especially because our property, geese are not fond of filming, especially since our property is not level. There's actually quite a bit of hills, and we're in a more low-lying area where the firewood is stored at. So it very quickly would become swampy, mucky, muddy, and very difficult to navigate a wheelbarrow to get over this way, so that way we could put stuff into the house. So then the other thing that we did too, which we're almost there, I had to clean out underneath of this clubhouse, which is right here. That thing, I don't necessarily consider it structurally sound. It's kind of sketchy to get up in there, but it is what it is. It's dry underneath of here. So there was this is the wood pile that I've moved. There's quite a lot of lumber there. Well, not lumber, you guys know. But so there was a weird sled thing that was elevated up in here, that we actually had no idea what it was for. It was here when we bought the place. So it just kind of was one of those mystery things as to why, like, we just basically didn't know what it was there for. We had no idea what it was. So once I cut it down, so that way I could pull it down, so that way I could use it as essentially like a skid to put the wood on top of, I actually discovered that it was some sort of weird ice fishing hut thing. That's why it was essentially like a sled. I wish I would have taken pictures beforehand, but I didn't think about it. But so there was holes in it and stuff, so we just had to strategically stack the wood on here so that way there's not open holes. But yeah, it'll definitely keep it off the ground, keep it elevated, and make it so that way it stays good and dry, especially since this here has, there's a roof on top of the clubhouse that does not leak, and the floor is in decent-ish shape. The only reason I'm concerned about the structural stability of this clubhouse is because the ladder to get on it is only like a foot wide, and it's set up as weird ladder step things, and it just feels sketchy to walk up there, and there's definitely some need of further joists to go up in. And plus too, the people that built this thing also did a lot of the renovations previously to us buying this house like 20 years ago, and it was not done properly. So I assume this clubhouse thing is not very in good shape. But like I said, it works fine for storing firewood inside of it. And then behind me here is about another cord of firewood here, which I do have to get a tarp to put over top of it, because as it stands right now, the roof will basically drain water off on top of it. But it was the only place that I had easily accessible, close to where we cut up a bunch of wood to actually store the wood. Because when we started cutting wood up for this firewood season, we knew about the septic issue. We knew that things were kind of wonky and weird, so we didn't want to store everything in that shed, because of the fact that we figured it would probably have to get moved. So we're just kind of trying to be proactive about the firewood situation. And then this weekend we also had to borrow, because our truck broke down, we had to borrow my dad's truck, which is about an hour away as to where I had to drive to get it. So thankfully for us, he actually had some firewood already cut up for us to give to us. So we actually had to unload that before we could actually pick up any hay. And it's been a really busy last few days in terms of trying to get things prepped, get things ready, get things set up, get things just established. So that's kind of one of the interesting parts about homesteading, is that even when you've been there for a year or 2 years or several years, there's always something different going on, something that you could improve upon to make things more efficient, to make things nicer. So it's just definitely one of those long game things where, you're essentially just continuing to evolve and continuing to grow and change and shift. So it's just sort of one of those neat things where, you read about it and stuff on the internet, you read about it in magazines and books of how it's an ever evolving, ever changing, ever morphing thing, that you kind of go, yeah, that's kind of BS. Like, I could figure this out. I can get all the knowledge, I can get all the smarts and stuff, and then plot it out and establish a homestead way easy. I'm sure all of you have seen those clickbaity things of, building a homestead in 100 days or whatever, and it doesn't work that way. It takes time to build up soil. It takes time to build up fertility. It takes time to essentially nail down a real plan as to where you're going to put stuff and where the good places are and what you ought to do. Because, while it worked for us to put the firewood way far away, it made it so we didn't have to deal with too much rodent intrusion in the house. And it worked in a pinch. Over the wintertime, it was such a hassle to have to bring wood up that all of us were like, oh God, we got to do this again. Because there was times that pushing the wheelbarrow through, like, it felt essentially like having a flat tire on the wheelbarrow to try to push it through the mud or to push it through the snow. And then when we had just the wagon, honestly, I could not pull it if it was more than half full, because it was just so hard to pull it up the slight hill in the mud that I could not physically do it. So there was times that I had to have my wife Tracy behind me pushing on the wagon to try to make it so we could get it to the front steps area. And then from there, we had to then do, depending upon which side we went up, it was either like 5 steps worth of, heaving it up, or going up 7 steps with armfuls of wood, which was definitely not sustainable, not doable. But now it's a lot closer. We can just fill up the firewood tote for what we need for the day or whatnot. Come over here, grab it, and then just take it inside. So we don't have to worry about it getting snowed on, getting weather on it. It's going to be a lot nicer. This is definitely much needed upgrade. So anyways, let me know in the comments section when you guys started your homesteading journey, some of the things that you realized were like, oh, we shouldn't do this. We should change things. We should switch things. We should alter things, because there might be an opportunity for us to learn from somebody else's snafu. I don't want to say a mistake, because I think everything is not a mistake. It is just sort of a learning experience to change things, to do things differently. Kind of like how it worked where we were storing it, but it's not easy to then bring it up here, especially in the snowstorm. But that's obviously working on getting rectified. So yeah, let me know in the comments section what you guys have tweaked, altered, changed, or if you guys have any advice for us as we work on building this place out. So anyways, thanks for watching. Have a good one, guys.